Let me tell you some of the main myths that are holding people back, as well as three strategies that help you get into your first property for just $10,000. Why real estate is actually faster in terms of building wealth than saving or index investing could actually ever be, and what mistakes to avoid. If you only have like just $10,000, right? Like right now, I mean, a lot of people are wondering, like, is that enough, right? If that's what you're thinking, like, is 10,000 enough to get into your first property? Let me tell you, it certainly is. And I'm not talking about, 5 years from now, like maybe when the market corrects and it drops in price. I'm not talking about waiting. I'm not talking about the middle of nowhere, small town. I'm talking right now in the market. All you need is 10,000. Sounds crazy, but actually it's realistic, and I'm going to show you how. There's a big myth that's holding a lot of people back, and it's related to all of this, right? So let me tell you that first, and then I'll basically talk about how to actually go about buying a property for just $10,000 and why real estate really is very powerful for anybody that's looking to build wealth really, really fast. You don't actually have to wait until you've got tens and tens of thousands of dollars. It's just not the case anymore. Like saving alone will not make you wealthy. And another myth is that waiting as well, right? But waiting will not make you ready. When you think about inflation, like right now, maybe you're sitting on cash and inflation is eating into the value of your cash. Even if you have it invested in the index fund in the stock market, you're probably getting 7 to 10% on average a year. But you're missing the benefits of ownership. You're missing all of that, the cash flow that you get from your tenants. And you're kind of stuck, right, in this cycle, this where you're a renter. That can suit some people. But if you're really serious about building wealth, then you want to take advantage of real estate. You're thinking maybe, all right, that's fine, Michael, but like I'm a bit scared. Well, let me tell you, like when I was a child, my favorite soccer team, football team, was Brazil. Now, England invented football, but Brazil perfected it. And Brazil had a motto. They said the best defense is offense. And that's true in real estate. Like you have to be more proactive. You have to step into it like this. You can really just build wealth by just stepping into one asset at a time. Just step into that ownership. And $10,000 is enough. So let me show you, if you're a bit skeptical, let me show you how $10,000 is actually enough to get in. Three different ways. Okay, let's look at one way at a time. So the first way I would suggest is probably what's known as FHA, Federal Housing Association grants with seller credits. So with just $10,000, it's definitely enough because you can get in for 3.5%. That means you can buy a $250,000 property for just $8,750. Now it's seller concessions, so the seller can sometimes help you pay back up to 3%, sometimes even higher, of the actual closing costs in terms of the property. You can also apply for local grants. And so between the two, you could definitely be into a property for under $10,000. You don't need massive credit as well for this. A second way of doing it would be basically something like house hacking. This is something I've also done, and short-term renting, as well as room rental. So here we're thinking about a 1 to 4 unit property. You could be just buying one unit, like an apartment or a single family where you live, or you could buy a 2 unit, a duplex, which I bought, or a triplex or a quadplex I'm currently buying. That's 4 units. So you could rent out the other units while living in one. And look, even if you only have one unit, you're bought one unit, you're living there, as long as there's multiple rooms, like bedrooms, you can always rent out the other rooms to help cover your mortgage. And you could even be cash flow positive as long as you're looking at something that's owner occupied, like you intend to live there. Now, a third way of doing it, look, if you're a little bit scared, and I was when I first started out, like all honesty, when I first started out, I didn't want the headache. I was too scared to like own everything, be on the hook for everything. So a nice little stepping stone could be something like co-hosting or rental arbitrage. Very similar with rental arbitrage and co-hosting, we're looking at other people's properties and we're going to make money from their properties. Sounds grand. It's actually quite easy. So with the rental arbitrage, you're leasing long term someone else's property. You're renting it out short term, the higher nightly rates, and you're hoping to profit the difference. Co-hosting, you're not even renting someone else's place. You're helping them to put it on a short-term rental listing, and you're getting a fee for doing that from the revenue. So you're earning money. You're getting lots of cash flow. You're getting a proven system. So you're checking out your systems and you're making sure that it works. And you're going to become investor ready for the future. So you might say, Michael, look, that's fine, but are you sure real estate is the fastest, path to wealth? And here's why I think it is. So in terms of like saving and everything, if let's say you give me $10,000, right? That's what you have right now. You got $10,000. You put that into a savings account. At the end of the year, you look in the savings account, you might get $50, right? Maybe a bit more if it's certain other accounts, but not that much. You look at an investment, like let's say the stock market, on a good year, you might make $700 from that $10,000 investment. But here's the kicker. You go into real estate and you could be controlling a $250,000 property with that same $10,000 that you put down initially. Now, with that, you're getting lots of appreciation. If the market goes up, you get the appreciation. You're getting the rent from your tenant, the cash flow. You're getting all those tax write-offs too. That at the end of the year, you can lower your income, the actual tax you're paying rather on your income. That's fantastic, right? So you get all those benefits of ownership. So the sooner you do this, the better. Now, what I would also say is that it's kind of, when you're thinking about smart strategies like this and smart financing, you're not really becoming a landlord. You're becoming an asset owner. And the sooner you do this, the better. But before I finish up, I want to give you guys a few little warnings, right, in terms of what to avoid. One of the things I would say to avoid is like just sticking and holding cash. So cash alone, if it helps you sleep at night, great. Like who am I to judge, right? Maybe you're very risk averse, but you have to look at it like an opportunity cost. Okay, on my wall, I used to write down like what would I rather do? I have a big goal. What am I doing? Everything else is like, okay, it's not as important as this one goal. So if your goal is to become wealthy, if that's real, if you really mean it, then just sitting on cash is not going to do that. Another thing is buying stuff you don't really need just to impress people. So the typical lifestyle creep. Maybe it's like every 3 or 4 years, you're like, oh, I want to get a new car. I want to upgrade my car. Other kind of fluff. Look, I'm not here to bash that. You do you. But again, like I said on my wall, my main thing for me right now is I want to buy a fourplex. So every decision I'm buying, like, do I want to buy a new suit? Do I want to buy a new watch? Everything comes at a cost, right? So you can afford anything, but not everything. So just focus on one thing. And that's what you really want to go for. So in terms of your real estate, right? In terms of like the myth, the biggest myth is all this thing about kind of feeling ready. Let me tell you, right, in wrapping up, let me tell you that feeling ready is a big myth. What makes you ready is actually experience and doing it, getting into your first deal. And there's nothing like that. Your first deal will teach you more than 1,000 hours of watching YouTube ever can. So getting into it and taking that first step, $10,000 is all you need to get into the game. And in terms of helping you, if you want me to help you, I have a free guide that you can click below to download. It's called the $10,000 Property Playbook. It shows you how I structured my first deal, more specific strategies so that you can get into a property for less than $10,000. It also shows you how to make money once you're in the property, right? All the real examples, the numbers, the full cost breakdown, everything. And even how to leverage from your first property into your second so that you don't get stuck. Look, $10,000, don't let it just sit there and do nothing. It can buy a cash flow asset and it can change your life. I would say that if you're really serious about real estate and using real estate just to kind of maybe just to escape the 9 to 5, but also to basically build real wealth, then this is definitely for you. So let's build your wealth one property at a time. And I'll see you in the next one.